The air hung heavy and still. A lone figure, a forgotten suitcase, the train station, a labyrinth of shadows and echoes. Platform 13, shrouded in an unsettling quiet. The metallic scent of rain lingered. This was a place of arrivals and departures. Yet tonight it felt different. An undercurrent of mystery pulsed beneath the surface. The suitcase sat undisturbed, a silent sentinel. Its worn leather whispered tales of journeys taken. Its tarnished brass buckles hinted at forgotten secrets. What lay within its depths? This was no ordinary piece of luggage. It was a vessel of enigmas, a harbinger of a mystery that would unravel beneath the pale glow of the station lights. A cleaning lady, her cart rattling over the grimy floor, noticed the suitcase. It sat alone, abandoned on the otherwise empty platform. She paused, her gaze lingering on the forgotten luggage. A sense of unease crept up her spine. The station was nearly deserted at this late hour. Only the faint hum of distant trains broke the silence. She had never seen this suitcase before, and it seemed out of place, as if it had materialized from the shadows themselves. Curiosity warred with apprehension. She cautiously approached the suitcase. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached out to touch it. The leather was cold beneath her fingers, strangely stiff. A whisper of wind seemed to sigh through the empty platform as she unlatched the clasps. The air grew heavy, thick with the weight of unspoken secrets. The suitcase creaked open, as if reluctant to reveal its contents. Inside, nestled amongst faded velvet lining, lay a stack of papers. They were old, yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. Each one was a return ticket, a one-way passage to a different time. The cleaning lady's heart pounded in her chest. These were not ordinary tickets. They bore the names of towns, cities, even countries she had never heard of. Places that seemed to exist only in the whispers of the wind. One ticket, lying on top, was different. It was pristine, as if newly printed. The destination, written in bold, elegant script, sent a shiver down her spine. It was her name. And the destination? A place called Remembrance. Fear turned her blood cold. Who had left this suitcase? And how did they know her name? The questions echoed in the silence of the deserted platform. She closed the suitcase, a sense of dread washing over her. The tickets, a haunting reminder of journeys never taken, held her captive in their mystery. The suitcase, once just an abandoned piece of luggage, was now a Pandora's box of unanswered questions. The cleaning lady, her name was Eleanor, stood frozen. The suitcase felt heavy in her hands, a physical manifestation of the mystery it held. She knew she should leave it, alert the authorities. But something, a morbid curiosity perhaps, drew her in. She found herself carrying the suitcase, a burden both literal and metaphorical, to a dimly lit bench on the platform. Each step felt heavy, as if she were wading through invisible waters. The silence of the station pressed in on her, amplifying the pounding of her heart. With trembling hands, Eleanor once again opened the suitcase. The musty smell of old paper wafted up, mingling with the metallic tang of fear in her nostrils. She carefully lifted the stack of tickets, each one a faded testament to a journey never taken. The names on the tickets were like whispers from a forgotten past. Zarau, a hidden village in the Pyrenees. Kundra, a port city swallowed by the Caspian Sea. Roanoke, a colony lost to the annals of time. Each destination more enigmatic than the last. Eleanor spent what felt like hours poring over the tickets. Some were handwritten, the script elegant and flowing, others typewritten, the characters blurred with age. But they all shared one chilling detail. The destinations no longer existed. She tried to rationalize it, to find a logical explanation. Perhaps these were tickets from a bygone era, relics of a time when these places thrived. But something about the pristine condition of her own ticket, the boldness of the script, belied that notion. Driven by a need for answers, Eleanor pulled out her phone. The cold glow of the screen, a stark contrast to the warm, yellowed tickets. She started with Zarau, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The search results sent a shiver down her spine. Zarau, a Spanish village once rumoured to be a haven for witches, had vanished in the 16th century, swallowed by an avalanche, leaving no trace behind. except it seemed for a return ticket in an abandoned suitcase. One by one, Eleanor researched each destination. Kundra, a thriving port city, had been claimed by the rising waters of the Caspian Sea in the 18th century. Roanoke, the lost colony, had vanished without a trace in the late 16th century, its fate a mystery that continued to baffle historians. The more Elena discovered, the more unsettling the mystery became. These were not just forgotten places, they were places erased from history, their existence relegated to myths and legends. Yet here she was, holding tangible proof of their reality in the palm of her hand. Her gaze fell upon the ticket addressed to her. Remembrance. The word echoed in her mind, a chilling premonition. What did it mean? Was it a place, a state of being, or was it something far more sinister? Fear threatened to consume Eleanor. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was caught in a web of something larger than herself, something dark and inexplicable. Who had left this suitcase for her? And what did they want? Was it a prank, a cruel joke by someone who knew her name? But the sheer effort involved in forging these old tickets, the historical accuracy, suggested something far more calculated. This was the work of someone with knowledge, resources, and a chilling disregard for the laws of time and space. Eleanor glanced at the shadows that stretched across the platform, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a sudden, terrifying certainty that she was not alone. Someone, somewhere, was watching her every move, and they knew she had the suitcase. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. The feeling of being watched intensified, prickling at the back of her neck. She could practically feel the weight of an unseen gaze, cold and calculating, boring into her. She glanced at her phone, the bright screen, a beacon in the dimly lit station. Had she been followed? Was someone watching her right now, concealed in the labyrinthine shadows of the platform? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. Eleanor quickly shoved the tickets back into the suitcase, her movements jerky and uncoordinated. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the station. She had to get out of there, find somewhere safe. As she stood up, clutching the suitcase tightly, a figure emerged from the shadows at the far end of the platform. Tall and silhouetted against the faint glow of the station lights, the figure remained indistinct. Eleanor froze, her breath catching in her throat. The figure approached slowly, their footsteps echoing on the concrete platform. Eleanor's grip tightened on the suitcase handle, her knuckles white with tension. She couldn't make out any defining features, just the outline of a man, shrouded in an almost palpable aura of mystery. As he drew closer, Eleanor could see that he was older, his hair silvered, his face etched with the passage of time. He wore a long coat despite the mild weather and carried a worn leather satchel slung across his shoulder. He stopped a few feet away, his eyes, sharp and intelligent, fixed on her. "Elena," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to reverberate through the empty station. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." His voice, though quiet, held an air of authority that sent chills down Elena's spine. Elena hesitated, torn between fear and a desperate need for answers. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "And how do you know my name?" The man smiled, a sad, knowing smile that deepened the lines around his eyes. "My name is Professor Petrov," he said, "and I believe you have something that once belonged to my grandfather." He gestured towards the suitcase of return tickets. Elena stared at him, her mind reeling. How could this stranger know about the suitcase? About the tickets? And who was his grandfather? Someone who collected tickets to places that no longer existed. It seemed impossible, yet here she was, face to face with living proof. Professor Petrov seemed to sense her confusion. "My grandfather," he continued, his voice soft, almost mournful, "was a historian, obsessed with lost civilizations, forgotten corners of history. He believed that these places, though erased from maps and textbooks, still existed in some form, in some other dimension of time." Elena listened intently, her initial fear giving way to a hesitant curiosity. The professor's words resonated with her own growing sense of unease, the feeling that she had stumbled upon something far stranger, far more profound than she could have ever imagined. The tickets, Professor Petrov continued, his gaze distant as if lost in thought, were his life's work. Each one a representation of a place, a time, a memory that he believed could be accessed, revisited, if only one knew how. He paused, his eyes meeting Elena's. He believed that these tickets held the key to unlocking the secrets of time itself. Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. The professor's words, though spoken softly, carried the weight of conviction, of a truth buried beneath layers of history and forgotten knowledge. Could it be true? Could these tickets really be gateways to lost worlds, to forgotten memories? My grandfather disappeared many years ago, Professor Petrov said, his voice tinged with sadness. Vanished without a trace, leaving behind only his research and the suitcase of return tickets. He looked at Eleanor, his eyes filled with a desperate hope.
Welcome to 2050.
When I saw you with the suitcase, I knew I had to find you. Eleanor stood there, caught between the familiar world she thought she knew and the unsettling, inexplicable reality that was unfolding before her. The suitcase, once a source of terror, now felt like a lifeline, a tangible connection to a past she was only just beginning to understand. "What do you want to do with them?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Professor Petrov looked at the suitcase, his gaze distant, as if peering into its depths, into the abyss of time itself. "I believe," he said slowly, his voice echoing in the vast emptiness of the station, "that it's time we return these tickets to their rightful owners." Eleanor stared at Professor Petrov, emotions swirling. Fear, curiosity and responsibility battled within her. The suitcase now represented a connection to a past she never knew existed. "Your grandfather believed these tickets could transport people. He dedicated his life to proving it." Professor Petrov nodded, his expression sad but certain. He saw lost places as merely misplaced in time. Eleanor felt a shiver crawl down her spine. The professor's conviction was contagious. The train station felt like a veil, barely concealing a complex reality. "But why me?" Eleanor asked, her voice barely a whisper. She pulled out the pristine ticket addressed to her, the destination Remembrance mocking her with its cryptic elegance. "Why send this to me?" Professor Petrov took a step closer, his gaze fixed on the ticket in Elena's trembling hand. "I believe," he said slowly, his voice filled with a quiet intensity, "that my grandfather knew you would find the suitcase, that you were meant to." Elena's breath caught in her throat. Meant to? How could she be meant for something like this? A mystery that stretched across time and defied all logical explanation. The weight of the ticket in her hand increased tenfold, a tangible representation of a destiny she hadn't chosen, but somehow felt compelled to embrace. "My grandfather believed that certain individuals possess a sensitivity to the echoes of time," Professor Petrov continued, his gaze unwavering. "He called them chronovoyagers, people who, consciously or not, could pierce the veil of the present and glimpse moments lost to history." Elena stared at the ticket, her reflection staring back at her from the polished surface. Could she be one of these chronovoyagers? The idea, as absurd as it seemed, sent a thrill through her, a sense of awakening, of untapped potential. She thought back on her life, a string of ordinary days and predictable routines. But lately she'd been plagued by vivid dreams, fragmented memories of places she'd never been, faces she didn't recognize, places that, with a growing sense of unease, she realized matched the descriptions of the destinations on the other tickets. Zara, with its cobblestone streets and haunting melodies carried on the wind. Kundra, the bustling port city, its air thick with the scent of salt and spices. Roanoke, the eerie silence of the abandoned colony. The whispers of a vanished people clinging to the windswept shores. These places, once confined to dusty history books and faded postcards, were now imprinted on her soul, as familiar and unsettling as her own reflection. Had these always been her memories? Or were they seeping into her consciousness now, awakened by the suitcase and its enigmatic contents? "What happens now?" Elena asked, her voice trembling with a potent cocktail of fear and anticipation. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with the weight of unknown consequences. Professor Petrov smiled, a rare, genuine smile that transformed his features, momentarily erasing the lines of worry and grief. "The choice is yours, Elena," he said, his voice soft but steady. "You can walk away, pretend this never happened. Or—" he paused, letting the unspoken possibility hang in the air between them. "Or you can embrace your inheritance. Discover the truth behind these tickets. Unravel the mystery of remembrance." Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat urging her forward towards the unknown. The station, once a place of mundane comings and goings, now felt like a precipice, a point of no return. Could she turn her back on this, on the chance to unravel a mystery that seemed inextricably linked to her own existence? The weight of the suitcase in her hand was more than just the weight of old tickets and faded leather. It was the weight of a legacy, of a destiny she hadn't chosen but couldn't ignore. It was the weight of a choice that had the power to shatter the illusion of her reality and reveal a truth far stranger, far more wondrous than she could have ever imagined. Elena took a deep breath. The stale air of the station suddenly infused with the electrifying possibility of adventure. She looked at Professor Petrov, her eyes reflecting the decision she'd already made. "Let's do it," she said, her voice firm, resolute. A slow smile spread across Professor Petrov's face, a mixture of relief and exhilaration. "Then let the journey begin," he said, his voice filled with a newfound energy, the echo of a shared purpose resonating between them. "Let us return these tickets to their rightful owners and unlock the secrets of remembrance." Eleanor and Professor Petrov, armed with the suitcase of return tickets, embarked on a journey across continents, following the whispers of forgotten histories. Their quest led them to dusty archives, crumbling ruins and remote villages where legends still lingered in the air like ancient melodies. They discovered that Professor Petrov's grandfather, a man known as the Clockmaker for his obsession with time, had devised a way to access these lost places. It wasn't a time machine in the traditional sense, but a method of harnessing the echoes of the past, the residual energy left behind by vanished civilizations to create temporary portals. The tickets, they learned, were not merely tokens of passage, but intricate keys, each one imprinted with a specific frequency that resonated with the temporal coordinates of its destination. But the Clockmaker had also discovered a caveat, a price to be paid for tampering with the delicate balance of time. Each journey through a portal came with a risk. The further back in time, the more significant the temporal distortion, the greater the chance of becoming unmoored from one's own timeline, lost forever in the annals of history. Their first destination was Zarao, the Spanish village swallowed by the avalanche. Using the Clockmaker's notes and a portable version of his device, they activated the corresponding ticket, creating a shimmering portal amidst the ruins of an old stone archway. Elena, her heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration, stepped through the portal, followed closely by Professor Petrov. The world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations, the air thick with the scent of pine and wood smoke. When their vision cleared, they found themselves standing on a cobblestone street, the sounds of laughter and music reaching them from a nearby market square. Zarao, in all its vibrant life, bustled around them. Eleanor could feel the energy of the village, a tangible hum of life force thrumming beneath the cobblestones, woven into the very fabric of the ancient buildings. But as they explored the village, a sense of unease crept in. The villagers, though going about their daily lives, seemed strangely unaware of their presence, their eyes vacant, their movements mechanical. They were like figures in a meticulously crafted clockwork diorama, their existence preordained, their fates sealed. As they journeyed to each lost destination, Kundra, the drowned city shimmering beneath the Caspian waves, Roanoke, a ghostly tableau frozen in time, Elena and Professor Petrov began to understand the true purpose of the return tickets. They were not just a means of revisiting the past, but of preserving it. Each ticket, when activated, released a fragment of the past, a thread of memory woven into the fabric of time. Finally, they stood before the last ticket, the one addressed to Elena, the destination Remembrance, a whisper on her lips. Standing on a windswept hill, they activated the ticket. The world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of memories. Elena found herself adrift in a sea of faces, voices, moments in time. She understood. Remembrance was a state of being, a connection to the eternal now. The Clockmaker sent her to the heart of existence, where every story is woven into time. When the light faded, Elena carried the weight of countless memories, the echoes of lives lived and lost. The suitcase of return tickets lay open beside them, its purpose fulfilled. The tickets, though faded, still held a faint glow, a testament to the journeys they'd taken. But for Elena, the journey had just begun.